Hello there, welcome back to another Cloud with Chris weekly vlog. You're with me, Chris Reddington, and here we talk about all things cloud. Now thank you folks for joining me today. We are running very early in comparison to the normal Cloud with Chris weekly vlogs. I've actually got some evening plans today, so I just decided to switch things around a little bit. Given it's just myself on the stream today, made sense to go and do that. So we're going to be doing, of course, our usual updates this week, but we're going to be starting off with something else just more important to recognize and talk about for a moment. But we'll be going ahead talking about the Azure Updates, the Azure Blogs, the Azure Devops Blogs, the GitHub blog, and then some changes I've been making on Cloud with Chris as well, and some things that have been going on as well. So you know the deal. If you like the episode, please hit like, please hit subscribe, and please hit the notification bell so you know as soon as there is new content, new episodes, new streams, etc. available for you. And thanks for folks joining in the chat. Good afternoon, Andrew. Welcome, welcome. I hope you are keeping well. So what we're going to do first then, folks, is we are going to go ahead, switch over to our normal setup and kick off with our first topic of the day. And the first topic is not an easy one to talk about. For anyone who's been involved in the community, you'll probably know Abel Wang. Abel was someone who was absolutely amazing. As many will know, he was fighting a battle against cancer. And unfortunately, as was posted by Donovan on Twitter on Friday, he passed away. And it's incredibly sad news for the community. It's a big, big loss. And I wanted to just take a moment to reflect and to just take a few moments to think about Abel, because he was actually a big inspiration for me. He was a big inspiration for everything that I do on Cloud with Chris. And I do not say this lightly, that without Abel, I probably would not have started on the journey that I'm on. I met with Abel quite a few times, so I was very fortunate to be one of those people who were able to meet him in person, and met with Donovan as well. Fortunately, through some friends on my previous team, we were able to go for dinner a few times and hang out and had some amazing discussions. But the last time I met him in person, it was just himself and I out for dinner, and we were just having a discussion. And I kind of put a bit of a proposition to him, and I said, you know, I really want to do what you do. I love public speaking. I love getting out there and working with the community. I'd love to tap into your knowledge and tap into your understanding. And what you see with Abel is what you get. What you see on stage, that passion, that enthusiasm, that genuine way of wanting to help people is exactly what I got. And I'll never forget his advice. His advice was very candid. Just go into it. Just start. Just go. And, you know, this is something where I really have Abel to thank for the journey I'm on. So a big thank you to Abel. He was, in fact, the first guest that I had on Cloud with Chris as well, and definitely encourage you to go listen back to that one if you're interested in the DevOps kind of territory, world, whatever you want to call it, and some of the what's worth knowing, I guess. He was, of course, the person that could channel that and talk about that. So that was the first session I ever had with a guest. So again, he's played a big part in shaping what Cloud with Chris became and kind of how I went forward with it. But what was really strange in terms of timing for me was actually I watched a podcast, or listened to a podcast, I guess, from Scott Hanselman on Friday, in fact, over lunchtime. It was one that I kept meaning to go and listen to, and it was one between Scott and between Abel, where they talk about his condition, his cancer, the kind of number that he was given in terms of likelihood. And it's a very, very sobering episode to listen to. And I think the one thing that I take away from that, and that we should all take away from that, is, as the episode says, get busy living. And it's been a difficult one to process. this, actually, because I've got some people very close to me who are fighting their own battles with cancer right now as well. But there's no one, I think, who is enthusiastic and as passionate and as genuine as Abel was. So I will absolutely be carrying on my Cloud with Chris journey, and just a big, big thank you to Abel for his huge impact, not just on myself and my journey, but everyone that he has inspired along the way, not just through his keynotes and his talks, for example, but all of it, meetup groups that he's been part of in the community, and just everything that he's done. So thank you, Abel. We've lost a rock star, but the star has gained, or rather the sky has gained another star. So with that, just wanted to make sure that was the first thing we talked about, because it would be wrong not to talk about Abel, given the huge impact he's had on me, the huge impact he's had on Cloud with Chris. So, in terms of updates this week, we're going to go through them as usual. We're going to go through the Azure Blogs, we're going to go through the Azure Updates, we're going to go through the Azure Devops blog, GitHub blog, and then what I'm going to do is go ahead and go through the Cloud with Chris updates here. And just before we do, just reading in the chat here as well, completely agree, it is very sad about Abel. And I agree, I've been looking through all of the Twitter posts, all of the things that are going online, you know, people remembering and sharing their thoughts about Abel. And there are a lot of people who weren't so fortunate as I was to get the chance to meet him and to kind of work with him. But as you say in the chat there, Andrew, very genuine, very cool guy, sharing everything he knew. And yeah, just very community focused and very genuine. So thank you for the comments there, folks. So in terms of the Azure blogs this week, there were 3 posts we'll go and focus on here. Number one, first one here, is about optimizing your cloud spend with Azure. So, of course, people moving to the cloud, cost and cost management and cost control is a big, big factor of your journey and moving into Azure. What they talk about in this particular post here is some tools that there are available to help you with cost management. So things like cost management and billing, Azure Advisor, and the pricing calculator as well. And there's a video in there as well, I believe, to watch a product demo around that. And one of the other things as well that they're working on, or have been working on, and you know they talk about in this blog post really, is this consistent dollar value across the world. Now, of course, we have an economy which is based on various currencies across the globe. What they talk about here is using a consistent dollar-based value so that we can get consistency across the various markets, so you can make sure that you get that predictability and it's not fluctuating one day to the next based on the markets there. They kind of change that on a monthly basis. They explain that here in that post as well. So it's just some good awareness really for folks to be aware of here. Next up then, another aspect focused around cost management and billing. This time looking at everything that has come out as part of July. So talking about billing policy status and configuration, so cost management, reservations, and a marketplace, for example. And what's new in cost management labs, so billing policy status and configuration, viewing cost for your resources, just turning the watch off there, changing scope, streamline cost management menu, various bits and pieces there. Also talking about some new services that have been released to save money as well, on new announcements. So App Service Environment V3, if you've been using V2 or V1, some significant savings for you there to go and take a look at. So I encourage you to take a look at that. Disk level bursting, for example, disk pools for Azure Vmware solution, more free services like Key Vault, Logic Apps, database for MySQL, database for Postgres, encoding in Azure Media Services, and price reductions on confidential compute then as well. So lots and lots of great things to help from a cost management and a cost optimization perspective, which of course is always great news for us as consumers. Then next up, really continuing in that theme of not really actually continuing that theme, I guess. Thinking about, to a degree, cost, but a different type of cost. And I think a lot of people are starting to not just look at the monetary cost, but looking at the cost of continuing to run their services on premises or wherever they are today. If you move to the cloud, there are gains that can be made from a sustainability perspective. So the fact that someone like Microsoft or Google or AWS are going to be optimizing for sustainability because of the impact of the scale of their data centers. So actually you moving to one of those data centers has a great impact for you and your business based on your carbon footprint. And that's something which you can see they're focusing on this blog post. It's an area I'm aware folks are really honing in on as well. So again, a bit more focus here in this blog post around that. So if it's not already an area of focus for you, I'm sure no doubt it'll be something that will become an area of focus over the coming months and years, given things like COP, for example, the Conference on Climate Change, which is coming up, as well as numerous other pieces that we're seeing across the globe happening right now with our weather. So that's the Azure blogs for this week, 3 blog posts there. So let's go ahead now, take a look at the Azure updates. In terms of the Azure updates, first off, we're going to speak about Azure Virtual Desktop. Azure Virtual Desktop is going to azure.com and deploying into that region. You need to jump through a number of different commercial aspects to actually be able to deploy into Azure China Cloud. So well documented, lots of great information out there on that if you need to go and do that at all. Next up then, Azure Stream Analytics tools, Visual Studio Code. So if you're using Azure Stream Analytics, great news, the tools for VS Code are now generally available. So being able to author, being able to test and debug your Stream Analytics kind of processes through Visual Studio Code, now available for you. Awesome update. Azure Site Recovery Update 56 is now GA, and a couple of interesting updates made its way into this one. Number one is replication and reprotecting operations are now faster by 46%, so that's almost halving the time it takes, so that is awesome. Or, yeah, doubling the efficiency, I guess, halving the time it takes. You can probably see my logic there. But also then you can now replicate between any 2 Azure regions around the world. You are not limited anymore to within a single continent. So great update there on DR strategies. Next up, Express Route, 3 new peering locations available. So those locations are Campinas, Sao Paulo 2, and Dublin 2. VMware Site Recovery Manager is now GA for Azure VMware Solution. Azure Sphere SDK version 21.07 update 1 is now available. Immutable storage with versioning for blob storage is now in public preview, which is an interesting update there. If you have some of those, time-based policies on legal holds, but also make sure that data is non-modifiable. Great update there for you. The write once, read many support, as well as things like the version control on your blobs. Great to see that coming there, and probably unlocking a number of compliance scenarios for folks there as well. Start VM on Connect capability in Azure Virtual Desktop has entered general availability. Great news there. Also entering general availability is Web Application Firewall GeoMatch custom rules on an application gateway. And finally, also entering general availability on Web Application Firewall is bot protection on application gateway as well. So a number of great updates there. I think, bending those between things like WAF, between blob storage, IoT, recovery manager, site recovery, I should say, ExpressRoute, and virtual desktop as well. So a great series of updates there. Next up then on the Azure DevOps blog front, we're just going to click into a few of these here. So first off is going to be another Azure Fun Bites episode with Jay Gordon, and this time talking about Azure Arc enabled data services. Big fan of Azure Arc. I think Azure Arc enabled data services is a game changer because, of course, you don't have applications without data typically. So being able to have your data close to your applications is likely going to be important. And given we can now deploy our applications to Azure Arc enabled clusters in preview at the moment, this is, of course, a great piece to be aware of. So Rob Sewell at SQLDBA with Beard joins Jay on that particular episode there. So great video there to go and catch yourselves up on. Next up then, the Devops Dojo, people and teams. So this is their, I think it's their third blog now, because they had one on experiential learning previously, and one before that talking about the Devops Dojo in general. This one they talk in some depth here, just about, again, the journey that they're on, really around people and teams. So you get a bit of anecdotal stories here, which is always interesting to hear in a DevOps transformation, because it's not just about the tools, it's not just about the processes, but it's also about the people. And people and process, I find, is always some of the more challenging aspects of that transformation. Shouldn't be the blocker, shouldn't be the thing which prevents you from moving forward, but this just helps you understand some of that journey that they've been on and some of their considerations there. Next up then, April Edwards, excellent cloud advocate based here in the UK, talks about a passion area close to my heart, comparing Azure Static Web Apps versus Azure Web Apps, comparing Azure Static Web Apps versus Azure Web Apps versus Azure Blob Storage Static Sites. So, of course, Static Web Apps got released the week before build of this year, I believe. Azure Web Apps has been around for some time, of course. And Azure Blob Storage Static Sites is, of course, been around, I think, for a couple of years as well. Interesting, the timing of our posts here, because April released this one day this week. I think I released it another day. I did a very, very similar write-up. So clearly on both of our minds there. But highly encourage you to read that, because all options in those scenarios could make sense for your scenario, so it's worth just going ahead and checking those out. But static web apps, if you have got a truly static site and you want a turnkey solution, I'm a big fan of what it enables for you and in your scenarios as well. And then finally here, in terms of the community updates this week, we've got a few. So the first off is Azure DevOps Automatic NuGet Versioning from James Miller, discussing semantic versioning with Azure DevOps for your NuGet packages. Azure Test Plan Jargons for data platform professionals. So if you're coming from that data landscape, Kevin Chunt has you covered, talking about some of the language with Azure Test Plans. Anderson Patricio talks about automating your Azure Virtual Network Gateway with infrastructure as code. Passion area close to my heart, both of these topics, trying to bring DevOps principles to folks who are not from app dev backgrounds. Terraform, conditional logic, and dynamic configuration blocks. Jack Roper provides some examples on that, along with capacity types for Azure Application Gateway. Splitting pipelines with Azure DevOps, and that is with Ned Bellavance. And next, then we have up Azure Explains Deep Enough for Azure DevOps, and this is with Peter, and that's his fourth entry in a series of posts there. And finally, what's changed.yaml on github.gist or on a GitHub gist. Rob Sewell, once again, helps you identify what Azure repo files have changed with a gist there, so always helpful to understand that. In fact, I'm just going to dive into that because that sounds very similar to something that I would have written in Linux, but apart from the fact he's written that in PowerShell, so awesome. Maybe I should go and write mine as a gist now. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I may have to take a look at that. But there we go, a great set of updates there from the community, and just checking in on the chat here. Agree, Andrew. April's been doing some great videos on YouTube, found really useful. So a big shout out there to April as well for all the work that she has been doing with the community and some of the recent content releases as well. Good, and then the final Azure DevOps blog here is from another familiar face and another familiar member of the community, Peter the Tender, talking all about monitoring Azure using Grafana dashboards. So great update there from Peter on how you can go and integrate with Azure Monitor using Grafana there as well. Some great functionality. I'm a big fan of Grafana, and definitely worth going and taking a look at that post from Peter there, folks. So again, big shout out to yourself there, Peter, and thanks for that great blog post. So now, in terms of the GitHub blogs, 2 updates this week. Number 1, standing up for developers, the GitHub Developer Rights Fellowship at Stanford Law School. Probably won't dive into that one so much as it's kind of outside of the realms of what I normally talk about here on Cloud with Chris, but GitHub's Developer Defense Fund will enable independent legal support from the Stanford Jules Gard Clinic to review and handle appropriate DMCA cases for developers on GitHub and across the software ecosystem. So great to see how GitHub are trying to lead the forefront there in protecting developers. And then finally, one which did catch my eye earlier this week is that GitHub have announced they've integrated 15 plus new code scanning integrations with open source security tools. So if we just expand some of these here, there are a number of tools. I'll quickly rattle through them. SARM, for example, Soblo, Node.js Scan, Electron Activity, Brakeman, PS Script Analyzer, KubeSec, TFSec, MSVC Code Analysis, Flaw Finder, SemGrep, Security Code Scan, DevSkim, are all example tools that have been integrated there. So love the fact, again, DevSecOps, huge focus from GitHub, seeing the focus of the open source space as well there, coming together, integrating some of those code scanning integrations with open source security tools that are there as well. So great work, GitHub. Big fan of that path and that approach there. Now, Cloud with Chris. You may notice a few extra tweaks on the website. I have been going across my various platforms, so Facebook, YouTube, cloudwithchris.com, trying to make sure that the colors are now on the new brand. I mentioned a little while ago, I've changed the background color and some of the other colors to make it more accessible from a readability perspective. It's absolutely a journey that I'm on. I know I'm not fully there yet, and there's absolutely more I can be doing to make sure I'm including everyone on this journey and making sure my content is accessible. But I am on that journey, folks, so please bear with me. But now we have a darker background across the different images, etc. I will be continuing to update those as I encounter more of those. But I've also updated with more content as well. So first, let's talk about what's happened over the recent week on Cloud with Chris. So of course, last week we had a gaming session, quite a lightweight one last week. I believe it was just myself and Simon last week, so thank you again for joining, sir. But then on Wednesday, I wrote my blog post up about choosing between Azure Static Web Apps and Azure Static Websites on Azure Storage, give some of my personal opinions on the difference between the two, how you figure out which one is right for you, what will I be doing on Cloud with Chris, how will I be migrating across these platforms, and how will I be taking that forward. So again, another angle there if you like. And then another great video from Dr. Keith McNally, where we talk about helping veterans transition into IT and learn Azure. So this is part of the Tales from the Real World content. Great session, understanding, I guess, a use case we don't really think about. A lot of the work I do is with enterprises or businesses. Keith's work is all about helping transitioning members from the military into those kind of citizen roles. That is not an easy transition to make. I have not done that transition, but I've spoken with lots of folks who have done that, family members, folks who have worked at Microsoft, for example. It's not an easy transition. There are a lot of things you need to relearn from the soft skill side all the way up. And of course, part of that is also learning the technical capabilities of Azure, of technical aspects of cloud. And Keith talks about how he goes and achieves that there. So really interesting and insightful session. Definitely encourage you to take a look at that because it might inspire you and encourage you to think of how you learn or how you educate others as well. So thank you, Keith, for joining the show and sharing the story with us. So in terms of episodes coming up, obviously this is Weekly Vlog 31. So hello. Thank you for joining and listening in here. This week we have got a few things coming up. So on Wednesday, I got a session with Vanessa Brewer, which was excellent. Great discussion talking about how to be successful with monitoring in Azure. So sometimes we think about monitoring as an afterthought. I wouldn't even say sometimes. I'd say a lot of the time monitoring and operational aspects is an afterthought. So it's interesting to hear Vanessa's perspective on how it should be something considered upfront as part of those requirements and how you take that production solution forwards. Then on Friday, another great session from Facundo La Roca, or Facu. He talks about Azure AD B2C being a real silver bullet for his own conference, Vopen.tech. So Vopen.tech is a conference that they run annually. Of course, COVID-19 happened, this little outbreak thing that people may or may not have heard about, impacted in-person conferences. So for them to adapt and to actually enable that conference to move forward, they had to look at an alternative solution to what they were using. Spoiler alert, it was Azure AD B2C, but what's great is Facu takes us through the journey of how he went and discovered how B2C could work for them in a space of 2 hours. So that included a research time. And it's really, really awesome just looking through and understanding the process he went through and how it enabled what they needed to do, but also brought new benefits to their site as well and to their platform and enabled them to do more and bring new experiences to their conference attendees. So really, really awesome story. Really enjoyed that, Facundo. So thank you again to yourself, to Vanessa for coming on the show, joining. Those will be released on Wednesday and on Friday, respectively. This week, hopefully I'll release a couple of blog posts. I have slowed down a bit recently, just where I've got so much video content coming out at the moment, but I will aim to get at least one, if not two, out again for you folks this week. So just a couple of other things I want to showcase here. If we look at what's upcoming, you may spot a few new faces and a few new episodes. You'll also spot something different here as well, and that's going to be if I just open this up in a new browser here. Oops, there we go. I started on Cloud with Chris, my weekly vlogs. You're watching one or listening to one right now. Every other week is a gaming session. We've been doing Sea of Thieves for the past few weeks. What I'm going to do now is once a month, so pretty much alternating 2 weeks, I'm going to do an Among Us stream. So what it's going to look like is a weekly vlog like we're having today, no gaming, then Among Us, then a normal weekly vlog, then Sea of Thieves, then a normal weekly vlog, then Among Us, then a normal weekly vlog, then Sea of Thieves. And we might rotate out more games into that. We'll see. But the idea with the Among Us stream is it's going to be a lot more discussion based, because sometimes Sea of Thieves, you can get a bit into the action, you can get a bit into things. Among Us will probably lend itself to having a bit more discussion time baked in as well. And of course, having a bit more fun, trying to understand who is lying, who is not. For that, though, we of course need a number of people to join us live. I would love to have some of my community followers coming along and joining us on that. So if you've played Among Us in the past, absolutely come along and join. If you've never played Among Us, absolutely come along and join, because it's going to be a lot of fun. I've already got some great folks coming along and joining who I'm very excited to have joining. I'm sure they won't mind me saying, but Labrina Loving, who's very involved in the community as well and is focusing a lot in the gaming space herself as well, is going to join certainly for this first one. And we'll see who else we may be able to get to join us as well. I know a few of the regular faces I have joining will be there as well. So if you're interested, drop me a DM on Twitter, hit me up. I can share the Discord link with you so that you can join the voice chat, because as I say, it's all going to be discussion based rather than using the in-game chat. So that's going to be coming up next week as well. In terms of what else is coming up in terms of episodes, just want to showcase again, we've got a few more speakers now listed on the site. We've got a great range of different topics coming up, from building greener software, finding vulnerabilities in your code before they find you. We've got things like why closed captions are going to make a public... why closed caption... Wow, words. Why closed captions in your public speaking may make a difference. And that is going to be with Kay Sauter. We've got, of course, continuation of cloud gaming notes. We're not going to have one of those this month. We're going to be taking a break from that one. We've got Susan going to be talking about migrating to the cloud. I'm just trying to pinpoint all the new episodes that have been added. We have got... Is WVD, I guess that should now be Azure Virtual Desktop. Is that the future of VDI platforms in the cloud? We've got Jonah coming to talk about things to consider before migrating old .NET applications to the cloud. We've got creating a learning culture. We've got microservices for 1 billion people, education mindset in the cloud, platform engineering, using it to gain competitive advantage, Azure governance, customized policies, artificial intelligence and health and fitness, Azure Quantum, Microsoft Q Sharp, cloud gaming notes, many live streams, weekly vlogs as well. So you can see there was a clear plan on content until the end of the year, to the extent we are almost full and booked up for the end of the year. So if you do want to come and join the channel in 2021, I certainly encourage you to submit a session very soon, because I do not have that many slots left. Otherwise, I will be looking at my 2022 schedule, looking at what I really want to move forward with, what I want to start doing, stop doing, maybe change up as we move forwards into 2022. So, my requests for you, as always, please do go ahead, hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, so that you know as soon as there's brand new content, and I know which type of content you like, because I will be doing that planning soon for next year. I will be starting to understand what is it that my community, yourselves, want me to go and do more of. Please share on with others. We're now sitting, I think it was about 623, 632, something like that on YouTube. We can get there. We can definitely go ahead and get to the 1,000 by the end of the year. Not the end of the world, of course, if we don't, but that would be excellent to go ahead and do that. So please share on, if you do enjoy the content, with your LinkedIn networks, with your Twitter followers, with whoever you engage with yourself. Not just about YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and cloudwithchris.com. And of course, on my accessibility journey, if you are going and listening to this content on cloudwithchris.com, then you can go ahead and read the transcript in real time there as well. And with that, folks, thank you for tuning in. Always love to hear from you. Let me know over on Twitter at RedOBowen. Drop a message in the comments on YouTube. Otherwise, stay safe, stay healthy, and in the wise words of Abel, get busy living. Speak to you all soon. Bye for now.